How did an error message lead me to this video? Well, in this video, I'm going to discuss one of the greatest skills we take for granted. But before we move forward, go ahead hit the like and subscribe button and let's get it cracking. Well, if you drive a car, you understand that you have to change the tires soon. You don't want it to get bald. So I was looking at my tires like, man, I got to get these tires changed. I don't feel like spending money, but I get the tire changed. And I did that. I went to Discount Tire, my favorite place to go. I'm pretty sure it's yours too. And normal routine, I was working while they were changing my tires. Then after 45 minutes to an hour, they said, hey, Kingsley, your car is ready. Nothing abnormal going on until I drove off the lot. I saw the error message for my tire. I was like, how do I have an error message for my tire already? You just changed it, right? I went back immediately and said, hey, there's an error message. It's not reading the sensor. So the guy was like, hey, we can check it. If anything happens, you can come back. So they had this little box that they press toward the tire that is supposed to realign. It's supposed to have the sensor relearn its new tire to make sure it adjusts for the correct pressure. And he told me if I go drive about 15 miles, 20 miles, it's going to reset from there. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I didn't have time to wait. So I was like, let me just do what he said. And never went away. And for a month, I was like, I don't really want to go because, I have a set order of things to do during the day before I start doing my children's activities. But yesterday I went. I got time today. And when I went there, I spoke to the young lady. She was helping me. I said, hey, they told me to come back. The tire sensor is not reading. I had a pressure reading on the left tire, back right tire. Left tire, back left tire, and then the back right tire. The front right tire was not reading. And it kept saying like there was no tire at all. And she was like, well, let me do a check. She did the same thing. She hooked something up this time and said, hey, your sensors are working. And she was like, well, I think it may be an electrical issue. I was like, I don't know. I don't have any understanding of how this works. I'm not going to act like I know. And she's like, well, there's nothing more we can do. And I said, hey, listen, I'm not disputing that there may be another issue, but I'm going to go by practical sense. Before I drop my car, and this is not an old car. It's only a year old. Before I dropped the car off, it was working fine. After y'all changed the tires, something happened. And we kept going a little back and forth, not in a bad way. She's like, well, sir, this is all we have. And I told her, I'm not the only customer who probably experienced this. There's gotta be something more that y'all can do. And I told her, if this was a situation where I was having this issue before, I wouldn't come to you. I would go back to the manufacturer. Now, she was being very respectful. She was waiting for me to speak, and then she would speak. I would speak. I would be quiet. She would speak. So the communication was going back and forth, but she kept thinking about it's something that we didn't do. And I kept going back. It has to be because this started after you changed the tires. So then, before she was about to pull my car, and the one thing I will say that she did very well was she was deep in thought as I was thinking. I could see her trying to internalize different scenarios of what could happen. I could see that she was thinking about it. She wasn't interrupting me, and she was not pushing her own opinion. She was going by the standard procedure that Discount Tire sets to reset sensors. And before she got in the front seat and drove to the bay in the warehouse, I said, the sensor's working. Isn't there something that relays to my screen that shows that all senses are working? And she said, yeah. And I could tell that she internalized that. And then the magical thing happened. Before she pulled in, one of her coworkers went there. And I was reading, minding my own business. I was like, they're going to figure it out, hopefully, right? And I figured I had a nail in the tire, so that actually helped as well. And then within 5 minutes, she said, Keita, can you come over here? I was like, oh, what happened? She said, we figured it out. Basically, my car has a relearn system. But if you press relearn without their sensor being plugged in, it's not going to work. So when they were pressing relearn, I was pressing relearn. Before I came back a month later, it was always reading an error message. It wasn't. And then when they put their own tire sensor check thing in and then press relearn, those two had to do the one thing that we take for granted: communicate. Communication brung the error message from being an error to now is reading correctly. And it's one thing that I know we take for granted because I see it all the time. I saw between me and my wife, me and my kids, for the longest until I recognized I wasn't communicating right. Even from my immediate family, my brothers, my late sister, my father, my mother. Have you ever been in a situation where you just feel like you're talking and they're not listening to you? Or maybe somebody's talking and feel like you're not listening to you. Well, this happens all the time. You can see it in a lot of places. I guarantee you can see when people ain't listening at your job. You could be at church. You could be talking about politics. Just go on social media. Matter of fact, go on Facebook. That's a great place to show that people just talk and don't communicate. Now, to help you understand communication, I'm going to give you this acronym, SSQ. And this acronym, the principle is going to be found in James chapter 1, verse 19. And it reads, let's go with the first S, slow to anger. When you are communicating with somebody, the one thing that should be worked on is not getting angry if somebody has a difference of opinion. I've had to learn this the hard way. People are going to disagree, and that's okay. People are going to have different opinions. There's so many things that go into what people believe is true. You don't know where their source is. The source could be a parent. It could be a mentor. It could be a friend. And if that person that they trust and that they love and they believe them, even if what they've been taught is wrong, they now have incorporated to make them that truth. And truth goes with emotion. When somebody really is convicted and believes in something, they're going to have an emotion attached to that truth. They're going to be convicted. So when you're communicating, the one thing that will help you is just be neutral. Allow them to speak. And even if they go against what you're feeling, stay neutral in your emotion. Understand that's what they choose to believe. Don't get angry, because when you get angry in the Bible, James 9, chapter 1, verse 19, it says, slow to anger. When you get angry, you're no longer going to communicate, and you're definitely going to listen. Let's go to the second S. So the first S was slow to anger. The second S is slow to speak. Now, I like to talk. That's how I'm doing YouTube. I think you can see that, right? And in talking, we believe that's actually the first thing in communicating. No, it's not. When the lady was helping me at Discount Tire, we both were being respectful, and she was talking and I was listening to make sure I could understand her. And then when I was talking, I could clearly see she was quiet, wasn't trying to interject. She was being slow to speak. She was waiting until after I was done speaking, and I could tell she was understanding me, even though we had a difference of opinion. But she wasn't rushing to get words out of her mouth just to force what she believed on me. Jesus did this very well in the Bible. He always listened for need to understand how to help somebody. And the very first thing that we want to do is to speak, but speaking is actually the last thing. And that leads me to the last letter of the acronym, Q. So it's slow to anger, slow to speak, quick to listen. my son, I always reference my son because he and my daughter, they make me laugh. They both say this. Um, Sometimes I'm getting weird. I'm like, hey, David Logan, can you just listen? Can you just do what I'm telling you to do? If you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're telling your kid 10, 15 times, like, can you just do what I want you to do? And I used to get like that, and sometimes my kids could see, I'm kind of getting weird up. And the one thing you should say, they'd be like, it's okay, Daddy. I understand. It's okay. Everything will be okay. They were always quick to listen, sometimes. But I had to incorporate that into myself, especially being a husband, especially being a father, especially when I've been put in leadership positions. How can you serve if the very first thing you do is talking? To be an effective leader, to be an effective parent, co-worker, friend, family, quick to listen is the very first thing that we should be doing. It's the very first thing. So when you're talking about SSQ, slow to anger, slow to speak, quick to listen. Everything starts with communication. It's always started. You can look at history. You can look at any type of disagreement. It's always happened because of lack of communication. When they talk about divorce, when they're talking about having money issues, when they're talking about anything that somebody's struggling with, it's because there's a miscommunication going on. Just think about believing in the wrong belief. You're miscommunicating on the wrong thing. So I leave you with this video today, SSQ, slow to anger, slow to speak, quick to listen, from James in the Bible, chapter 1, verse 19, as a principle that you can take in every area of your life. Communication is the greatest skill we should all be learning. But if we do not understand, take the time to understand, take the time to listen to understand, then we're not going to be communicating at all. Until then, talk to you soon.